Okay guys, so today I have a short video for you on what to expect of White Forest in the Alliance Insight meta given that we have just seen the new ban list. I will show you two versions of the deck, the Fiendsmith version and the Delta of Invitation version. I'll talk about where we might be on the tier list now and why I think this card is now the true star of the entire show. I'll briefly talk about our matchup spread and how that's changed because of the ban list and some basic choices for your extra deck. I'll go over some basic combo lines and some commentary of gameplay through hand traps. Okay, so first of all, this card I think is the most important card in the entire deck now for a couple different reasons. First of all, it is searchable, and so you may be wondering why play this at 3. And this is not settled yet, but hear me out on this. You can use this card at the end of whatever your combo is. Whether you full combo or your opponent interacts with you, you can always use this card at the end of your combo, which will guarantee that you have access to the Sin Adjudicator. So whether you got nipped or whatever happened, you want to end on this card. This card is strong because you can special summon it not just from your hand, but also from the grave by banishing a spell and trap from your grave, which means it's part of your resource loop in a weird way. It's easier for you to have spells in your grave than traps, but it's very easy to set up the traps. So this is a quick effect pop out of turn that also enables you to summon not just the Silvera or the Arciela, but also the Mystic Mystery. And this card adds an additional layer because you can quick synchro out of turn, usually with the Adjudicator, because you can get the body back for free on the next turn, to go into Snake Eyes Execute Dragon. This card is not a dark, which means you will never be locked out of it from witches. And it is one of the strongest types of removal because it pushes back to the spell and trap zone instead of giving them the resource back in their grave like they might want a Malice Monster to Bestial or whatever. You can also play Centurion Legatia, which I would for sure play if there was more space here. But the main point of the Fiendsmith cards is really for the resource loop, it's not for the boss monsters. Being able to cycle through a Lacrima and a Requiem every single turn, establish a Paradise for a very hard layer to interact with by dumping Desiree for the Send, even just being able to summon Engraver and force a response because you're going to equip Requiem and try to send a card can be the difference between losing and winning just because your deck doesn't have as much resources as your opponent's deck. Okay, so the Delta of Invitation version I will very, very quickly cover. So instead of the Fiendsmith cards, I am playing Delta of Invitation with Golden Lord. I'll show you what this does in the combo, but basically this establishes a Varudras before a single search, so it is the only way to play around Droll that I have come across in this deck. And if your opponent doesn't have Droll, that's fine. This is an Omni Negate with 3000 attack and defense. Okay, so let me show you the basic lines to give you the idea, and then I'll show you the gameplay through hand traps. So first of all, if you are not playing Delta of Invitation, you will treat this as a blank, so we'll just dump that off of the LZ, and we'll do the basic ladder. We'll start with the basic ladder that everyone knows. Worth mentioning, because of extra deck space, I am not playing Sinful Spoils of the White Forest, which is the main way that you play around Nibiru. I haven't made a video on that. I think everyone already knows it, but that's the cleanest way in Supreme Darkness to play around Nibiru is with Sinful Spoils of the White Forest. So we're just going to go for a basic ladder here where we Deception for the Murcielago. Obviously, the first time you use Hallowed Azamina is the first nib check, so usually they will nib there because you could bring out Ilia Sylvia. So you could read, like it's not guaranteed, but you could read that your opponent doesn't have nib if you've gotten to this point. So now you can shuffle back Azamina LZ to add Hallowed Azamina from your grave to your hand, and that will allow you to use Hallowed again, chain Wanted, searching for your Witch, and summon out your Ilia Sylvia. So they really will have nibbed here at this point, unless they have like a nib imperm or something that they're holding. After you have your Ilia Sylvia, you can pitch your Murcielago, which is no longer useful for your Diabels for the Black Witch, and you will set your Morian. This is a very important part of your resource loop because it is a free send, since you will be able to reset it from the grave for free because you control a level 5 or higher illusion monster. You have Diabel as an illusion, Ilia Sylvia as an illusion, and a bunch of other stuff for illusions too. So now you can activate witches. You will be dark locked from your extra deck, but you've already gone through your Azamina stuff, so it doesn't really matter that much. So here we will search for the star of the show, Diabel's the White Witch. Here we will send our Morian to dump the Curse of Diabel. So Curse is the one that adds the Filius from our deck to, Filius from our deck to our hand. And we can reset the Morian because we have tons of level 5 or higher illusion monsters. So here is our layered trap in the back row, as opposed to our Woes or Aface, which I think are better post dice roll when you know you're going first for sure. So here we can activate our Filius, add Adjudicator from the hand, and now we can banish a spell and a trap to special the Adjudicator. Here the Filius will trigger optionally to give all our Diabel cards plus 500 attack. And so we get the Deception back in the end phase, but this doesn't really matter that much. It's more of just like a resource card at this point. And so when you pop a card, you'll be able to summon your Mystic Mystery, and that can quick synchro into, you know, your execute or whatever. One thing to remember here is that the optional effect of Mystic Mystery on summon to place your White Forest monsters in the spell and trap zone, you almost never want to place LZ or Sylvie, because LZ you want to add back to your hand, you know, usually off of the Diabell summon, and the Sylvie usually want a special from the grave after they've cleared one of your bodies or to dodge some type of interaction. So these are not better here. Usually we'll want to place other types of monsters, so just pointing that out real quick. Okay, now I will show you the Delta line, and then I will show you some quick gameplay through hand traps before finishing. So here we start with our Delta, and we send the Lord to the graveyard. Here you need to have any other spell or trap. You do not want to get rid of Delta to summon out Lord. So here we will send our Tails, which means it will reset itself, but really this could be any spell or trap. And so now that we have a zombie on field, our Delta can special a zombie token. We can turn our Golden Lord into a Fallen Angels, just like a 1-for-1 body, because when we link these two off into Flying Mary, the Fallen Angel will trigger, and it can either special summon Golden Lord from our extra deck or graveyard. So if you don't want to play two Lords, then you can play the Mad Golden Lord. If you don't want to use the space on your extra deck, you can play two Lords, because the Flying Mary can place itself in the spell and trap zone to special summon a Lord from our graveyard. It is also worth mentioning this has a kind of a useful effect, where while it's a continuous spell, so it is right now, you can target a level 5 or higher zombie monster you control, which would be our Lord. Destroy one monster your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to that monster. So this is pretty useful in scrappy game states, but it's also just like a free pitch off of our White Forest cards. So now that we have two level 10s on field, this is now the first nib check. If our opponent does not nib here, we make Verrugus. We have not searched a single time yet. So now we can LZ and pitch the Delta. Remember, you always want this in your grave, because this has a very similar effect to LZ, where if a monster is added from the graveyard to the hand while this card is in your graveyard, you can add it to your hand. So, you know, usually that'll happen off the LZ or the Lord. So we always want this in the grave, because this is basically a free resource in the grave still. We get our Sylvie. We normal the Sylvie. We search for our witches, because remember, we're not playing the other stuff right now. So we Arciela, and here we can send our Flying Mary, for example, and we get our Azamina LZ. Here we're going to make sure that we've used our Tails, because that's what we want to add back, and we get the star of the show, Diabell's the White Witch. Okay, so now we can go into Queen, finally, and we can search for a Deception off of the Azamina LZ. The order is less important for, you know, getting Deception before Wanted when you're not on that, like, anti-nib Sinful Spoils the White Forest tech, but I'm still choosing to do it here first, because we can Deception, shuffle back our Arciela, bring out our Sylvie for free, tribute that to get our Hallowed, and then we can Hallowed, you know, summon Murcielago. This could be, like, if they have interrupted or destroyed this in some way, this would be like another type of nib check, because, you know, we could bring out Ilya Sylvia here. But here we're going to get Wanted. Hallowed will shuffle back Azamina LZ to add it to our hand. Now we can Hallowed, chain Wanted, search Witch, and now bring out our Only Negate for Rail. We can send the Murcielago that we don't need to summon Witch, which will set the Sinful Spoils of Slumber Morian, which, remember, is another important part of our resource loop, because we will be able to reset this for free. So this is yet another free resource. Now we can Diabell's send the Morian to pitch Curse, which will add Phileas. And now we can reset our Morian. This is why this is so great. I mean, I know that you can kind of do this with the, you know, the Woes and the Athas or whatever, but I think this is just more flexible game one, because it doesn't require any setup at all. Okay, so now we can Phileas, search for our Adjudicator, banish the Phileas and the Curse, and also when you banish the Phileas, you can optionally have all your Diabells gain plus 500 attack. So this will be your end board if you are playing the Delta of Invitation stuff. Now let me show you versus two hand traps. So here we open a mixture of things. We have Delta, and this is an Ash check, really. I mean, like, if your opponent knows what this can do, you know, it's understandable that they would Ash this, which is good, because you don't want them to Ash the LZ. So it kind of works in the way that Engraver works, where if you pitch Engraver or, you know, Tract or something, they'll often Ash those cards. People debate me about, oh, no, you have to save Ash for the Requiem. People who don't follow competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! There are very good reasons to Ash those cards depending on the game state. But anyhow, that's not what this video is about. So they Ash the Delta, so I'm like, okay, now my next play is normal summon Sylvie, because I don't want to Dark Lock myself using Witches when I still have a Deception that I can use. Now they go Imperm, so they've Ashed me on Delta, they've Impermed me on my White Forest card, and here I make a mistake. So I reveal the set rotation. I show that I am setting Witches to my field, and then I'm like, wait a second. The reason I was doing that is because I thought maybe I shouldn't use Deception, because I can't give up my Sylvie. You know, this is half of my Diabell ladder. I want to keep the Droll. But then I think, if he had Imperm, he probably doesn't have nib, right? Because like usually if you have nib imperm, even if you ash early, you're going to hold the nib imperm for way later in the combo because you're just going to imperm the omni negate and then still nib me for everything. So now I'm like, he probably doesn't have nib. So whatever, I'm going to give up my droll for deception, tribute the droll, search for hallowed, and now I can hallowed, bring out Murcielago. So here would be another nib check type moment, although we only just started playing, so he can't actually nib us right now, but I'm just showing you we've used hallowed here. And here I make a mistake. So what I should have done is if I searched for wanted, I should have wanted for the Black Witch. Black Witch send Murcielago, which I don't need. It doesn't help me at all as a body. The Witch can set the Morian, and then, you know, my LZ could send the Morian for free. But here I kind of like tunnel vision, I think, and I send the wanted off of my Arciela. It doesn't end up really mattering much because my opponent only had 2 hand traps. So when I complete the ladder here, I add back Delta, which really is a horrible add back because I'm going to get this in my opponent's turn anyhow. I should have gotten set rotation because if I set rotation against a deck that uses a field spell, I can interact with their field spell. So that was probably the best thing. And obviously set rotation is better than getting witches because this will give me witches anyhow, you know? So yeah, that was the wrong add back. Now I have the Diabelle's the White Witch and I can pitch the Morian, which I would have gotten anyhow if I had just gone for the Witch first. Dump Curse, get Phileas. Now the Morian resets itself. The Phileas will give me the Adjudicator. I guess like the thing I'm talking about with the Witch doesn't really matter too much in terms of my end board. Here again, I can use the optional Phileas effect to boost my Diabelles by 500 attack. And I decide that instead of just leaving these cards on field, I'm going to shuffle back my Arciela to bring out the Sylvie and turn my Diabelles and Sylvie into a Snake Eyes Execute Dragon and pass turn here. So I have Morian. I have a quick pop here. I have the push back to the spell and trap zone. I have the Diabelle effect for usually Silvera. And then I have probably LZ to add back out of turn. And I have the Sylvie that can come back, you know, by shuffling back something. So here they activate Delta, which, you know, they don't have anything to send. And they go Primate Lordly Load. The only card that I have that can stop this is specifically Adjudicator. And so now I'm assuming they're playing Blue Eyes. And this is like the best part of the deck. So I'm like, I don't want that to resolve. So I pop that, bring out Poplar. I place 2 cards, which you know, I don't place the LZ because I want to add this back. And I don't place this because this is what I want to use to shuffle special. So I place these 2. And I guess the opponent was hoping that I did not pop this. And maybe they could play, but so then they scoop. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is there's some things you just can't beat. Okay, so here you start with set rotation. We go for Delta, not only because we have witches, but because I kind of want to go for Verudrus. So we send the Lord. I don't want to draw. I want to completely avoid drawing. So I set it up so that I placed a spell or trap on my field that is not Delta to bring out the Lord so that I can make the token. So I have the token next to the Lord. Obviously, I could banish Wanted to shuffle back Subversion and draw right now, but remember, I'm trying to play around Droll. So I make the Fallen Angel off of the Golden Lord so that when I make Flying Mary, that will trigger and special summon a Lord from my deck, and the Flying Mary can special summon the Lord from my grave. So here it looks great, right? You know, I'm about to summon Verudrus, I'm about to activate Witches, I have an extender, I'm about to pop off, dude. But this is the first Nib check. So he activates Nib, and I'm like, all right, I have Witches, okay, I have an extender, I have a draw. All of these are great. None of them play around Droll anymore. So I don't have my Omni, and I'm like, well, I can't play around Droll now, so I'm just going to draw, see what I get before deciding what to do. Unfortunately, I draw a double, and also my opponent has Droll. So what can you do, all right? Yeah, if you have Nib Droll, honestly, it's a super low chance that they have both of these cards, but Droll probably will be popular. So we did play around the Droll, but we didn't play around both. So yeah, I go end phase, and I'm just hoping maybe he's bricked. And then, you know, when my Lord comes back, my Flying Mary is going to pop off, dude. I'm going to be able to pop a card. I'm going to be able to Lord do something. I'm going to be able to Witches and maybe combo. And he shows he basically has everything. So I'm like, okay, I'm scooping. I'm going home. Okay, so that was basically the deck for now. I'm not going to do a real deck profile yet. I will be doing more videos soon. I will be back to making regular content basically from now onwards. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. If you want to join the Discord, click the link in the description. And thanks for watching.